from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on AgDay, drought intensifies in Australia. Could the U.S. rejoin the TPP? We're talking trade at the Agribusiness Desk.
Well, the demand in China has grown. They're going to feed more animals this year.
Can you make orange juice from something other than oranges? We'll look at new research and teaching Louisiana students about careers in agriculture.
AgDay, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clint Griffiths. 11 Pacific nations are preparing to sign the TransPacific Partnership next month, a trade deal that the U.S. walked away from 1 year ago. But could the U.S. still rejoin the TPP this late in the game? Well, a coalition of agriculture and food groups sending a letter to U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer this week, urging him to re-engage in talks with the other member nations of TPP. The 11-nation deal is now driven by Japan, Australia, and Canada. NCBA's Colin Woodall says some countries in the TPP would like the U.S. to re-enter the trade pact, but it looks unlikely for now.
It's also a matter of bandwidth. All of the people who are on board right now are doing everything they can to finish the negotiations on NAFTA and CORUS. There's not a whole lot of other people sitting around looking at things to do, and so I don't believe that getting into TPP is going to be something we're going to see in 2018.
Woodall says Japan is focused on finishing the TPP before it starts negotiations with the U.S. on a bilateral trade deal. With Japan being the #1 market for U.S. beef exports, Woodall says it's critical to get an agreement in place. While the trade ministers from the 11 nations are expected to sign TPP next month, the legislatures from each of those nations must still ratify the deal. One of the biggest members of TPP is Australia. It's also one of the U.S. beef industry's biggest competitors. However, challenging weather is stressing the Australian herd. Hunter Valley in New South Wales, Australia is currently dealing with severe drought as livestock owners fight to save their herds. It's been more than a year since these Hunter Valley pastures saw rain. Farmers now hauling feed to starving cattle as dams and creeks dry up.
We've never seen it this bad before. All our paddocks look like this. They have no green feed in them whatsoever.
The situation's so dire, some are being forced to cull stock that's too weak to move.
It's very depressing to go out to a paddock and find that there's yet another cow who's died.
Nowhere is the situation more obvious than at the region's sale barns, where producers are offloading cattle in record numbers.
There's going to be long-term repercussions in this area because to get back in is going to be financially really significant.
They're looking to stabilize numbers, they're looking for growth, but with weather conditions the way they are, particularly in Queensland and Eastern Australia, I don't think that Australia is going to have the increase in production to really regain a lot of that market share, at least in the next year or two. So I think we got some time on our hands, our benefit of our side on just supplies.
Recently, the way state government makes drought declarations has changed. It also means little to no assistance so far.
I don't expect handouts, but I think when you've done everything possible yourself and you've tried to drought-proof your property by various measures and you still can't manage, there should be some sort of subsidy.
The high stress is also putting farmers' mental health in the spotlight. They're being urged to look out for neighbors and pay attention to their own well-being.
And it's something that we're really conscious of, to be respectful of them and just try and help where we can. And a lot of us are dealing with, people that in probably the most difficult time.
Heat and heartache as farmers wait for a solution from above. Back in the States, the Southern Plains and Southwest remain on drought watch for 2018. USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue spending Tuesday in Nevada and California listening to growers' concerns. The Golden State seeing snowpack levels even lower than during its recent historic drought from 2012 through 2015. Statewide snowpack accumulations are at 21% of average for this time of year. The latest water equivalent measurement showing the lowest ever recorded, below even those recent drought years.
But of course, it's not nearly where we'd like to be. We did start to get what looked like good storm activity, but now it seems as though that blocking ridge is back in place, and the forecast for the next couple weeks don't indicate there'll be a lot of snow coming our way, but there's still a lot of the winter left.
From Washington to world demand, the ethanol industry has plenty to discuss in 2018. AgriTalk host Chip Flory is at the National Ethanol Conference this week. He joins us with more. Chip.
Thanks, Clinton. Yeah, we're here at the National Ethanol Conference down in San Antonio. Protect the RFS, get parity for E15. But one thing that I really like is trade. 2017 was an awesome year for ethanol exports.
Right, yeah, even despite all the trade barriers that we're facing in the international market today, we did see a growth and record exports. China was our third leading market in 2016. They basically disappeared last year because they implemented a tariff about this time last year that kept our product out of that market for most of the year. We did see a little bit get into China late in the year, even with a 35% tariff, which I think really speaks to the economic competitiveness of our ethanol.
And there are some real surprising countries that are importing ethanol.
Countries like the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia. I mean, those are two OPEC countries in the Middle East that obviously are oil-producing countries, but they need the octane that ethanol provides. In the case of United Arab Emirates, they have a clean fuels program. So they're importing our ethanol as the lowest cost way of meeting that, and we think there's some irony there, and I think it, again, really speaks to the economic competitiveness of our product.
From the National Ethanol Conference down in San Antonio, I'm Chip Flory for AgDay.
Following the confirmation of Stephen Sinskey as Deputy Secretary of Agriculture, the American Soybean Association has chosen Ryan Finley as its new chief executive. Finley replaces Sinskey, who left ASA in October. Now, he spent the last 4 years working for Syngenta. Finley is a native of Michigan, where his family still farms. Weather, always worth a watch. Mike Hoffman joining us now. Today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. We're starting off in Albion, Nebraska. Jordan Bonham sending us a sleepy bull calf with a full belly of milk. She says the weather is okay for calving, but temperatures are a bit cold. The U.S. Drought Monitor says 57% of Nebraska is abnormally dry right now. Nearly 43% is not in any type of drought, though. It's also the start of calving season for Jay Cokes over in Delmont, South Dakota. Jay saying this little one here was born on a cold night. Unfortunately, the calf broke its leg, so it's wearing this little cast to heal. And taking a look at the wind speed forecast, you can see kind of in the Great Lakes and the northern Rockies starting off windy today. It continues to get windier throughout the Rockies as we head through the afternoon, winds diminishing a little bit farther east. And as we head through the day tomorrow, very windy day through the middle of the country, both Missouri Valley, central Mississippi Valley, and the far northern plains. And by the afternoon, a large chunk of the country seeing pretty high winds. We'll talk about your forecast coming up. But first, here are some hometown temps.
Ever wake up wondering what does today's weather have in store? Well, with weather updates, it delivers the local forecast right to your cell phone each morning to make preparing for the day easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
When we come back, we'll look at the recent trade news out of China and what that may or may not mean for U.S. exports. And later, these school kids are learning about a future in the agricultural industry.
AgDay, brought to you by Instinct and N-Serve nitrogen stabilizers. They don't just stabilize nitrogen, they maximize it, so crops deliver the max in return. Learn more at maxinmaxout.com.
In agribusiness, soybeans continue to race higher during Tuesday's trade, but how did markets close? For that, we head to the floor of the CME in Chicago.
Soybean market was higher again here on Tuesday. March futures traded into their highest level since early December, as a matter of fact. So despite a USDA report last week that was a little bit negative, the market has performed really well here. Concerns regarding weather in Argentina have been on the minds of traders. I think that's probably the most bullish thing that we've got going on here, and a great part of the reason why the market has been able to rally. Argentina's been in the midst of a fairly severe drought in some areas of the country. Argentina is the biggest meal exporter in the world, and we've seen the meal market just go nuts here as of late. On the bearish side, you know, exports are still a problem. We actually saw China cancel some beans yesterday, and we are still trending below the pace needed to hit USDA projections. Now, USDA did revise their projection for exports lower by quite a bit in last week's report. There are a lot of people out there that think that that revised projection is still too high, and that's kind of the big problem here. Again, Joe Veck from CME Group here in Chicago.
Andy Schisler, S&W Trading, our guest here at the Agribusiness Desk today. Andy, let's talk about one of our biggest customers, China, especially on the soybean side of things. You know, we continue to hear some political back and forth, some tit for tat on trade. What's your take of what's going on over there and what it means for the farm gate here in the U.S.?
Well, I mean, it gets a little bit scary for farmers because, like, we've been going since last fall, we've been missing our export numbers in beans, which is something we're just not used to.
Sure.
And so we've had subsequent cuts on reports, and our bean exports are really high generally, so we're kind of used to these huge numbers and we just expect them to grow. Well, the demand in China has grown. They're going to feed more animals this year. And so, like, it's still friendly, and we're hitting pretty good numbers in the exports. I think a lot of it's been logistics and some of the Gulf numbers versus Brazil, and then P&W numbers off the West Coast. So you just had a lot of little things kind of add up to kind of hurt us. I think we can keep pace with what the USDA has, which can be friendly. But the thing that could really muck it up is if we start talking a lot of these trade tension issues, and there maybe is a threat to do a tariff on beans. That would be, for the small group of farmers that we have in the United States, it would be terrible for us, and for China in general, the difference in price wouldn't be a big deal.
Okay.
But they could cause hiccups that make things look really ugly for us for a few months at a time. So I don't really think they're going to do anything with that, from what I've been told. They could, because you just never know with politics and stuff like that, but I hope it doesn't. I really don't think that it will. The sorghum thing is such a small issue and a small portion of anything that they would buy. I think it's just testing the waters, and it's one that they can kind of stamp their foot down and say, no, we don't want to do this, and it really doesn't have a big effect.
More making a point than actually impacting their own
I don't think they really
animals.
care, because they don't have a deficit of corn. If they had a deficit of corn, they won't say any of this stuff.
Well, that's true.
And they're going on, I would say, 4 years of record crops in corn too.
Sure.
And it's like eventually one of us is going to get hit.
Yeah.
And so I think they want to be a little bit careful, because they have to buy these soybeans, and they haven't had to buy corn, but they have orders that they can if they want this year.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Well, it's an interesting time. It's pretty dynamic. We'll keep an eye on it. Thank you, Andy. Always appreciate your insights. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
For one-on-one marketing advice, call Andy Schisler with S&W Trading at 312-506-3888.
Ag Day weather, brought to you by Resicor Corn Herbicide, a uniquely powerful formulation. Extraordinary power over weeds.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, looking at the root zone moisture map, and we talked earlier about California, but you can see other parts of the country starting to dry out as well.
Yeah, especially Missouri, Illinois, northern Arkansas, getting really dry in the top levels of the soil. West of that area, though, in the central plains there, it's shown at least temporary improvement. Panhandle of Texas, western Oklahoma, although those areas are still kind of on the dry side, at least temporarily, the root zone moisture showing things a little bit less dry, but it's wet farther north, Nebraska, on up into the northern plains, many parts of the Great Lakes and the southeast as well. Here's the way the map looks this morning. High pressure over the southeast, but we have a lot of Gulf moisture coming up ahead of that as it tries to bring in the warmer air. It's also bringing in some showers to the Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, central Mississippi Valley. Multiple areas of low pressure off to the north and west, as you can see as we put the maps into motion. The one off the southwest coast will bring in some moisture to the Four Corner region, which is very dry as well. And the two northern systems, all of these are going to kind of come together into one stream of moisture as we head through the latter parts of the week, as you'll see here. There's later today. Here's tonight. Some snow spreading across, once again, northern portions of the Great Lakes into the northern Rockies, even central Rockies, mostly rain farther south. And by the time we get to tomorrow afternoon, you can see that just string of areas of low pressure from the Great Lakes all the way back into the southwest. And that's where most of the moisture is going to be, with high pressure off of Florida and also in the Pacific Northwest and northern Rockies. Checking out precipitation estimates over the past 24 hours. We've seen some moisture in the southern Mississippi Valley over the next 36. We're going to add some more a little bit farther north. Nothing real heavy, but some areas will get a quarter to a half an inch. We'll see some decent moisture in places in the southwest and also decent moisture in the northwest. Snowfall will generally be confined to the Rockies, as it is warmer than we have seen, although far northern plains, you'll see a little bit of snow over the next 36 hours. But it's going to be from central Colorado into northern Idaho, western Montana, where the majority of the snow falls over the next 36 hours. High temperatures today on the mild side for the southern plains and even the northern plains. You're talking 40s in the far northern portions of North Dakota, but that's going to be changing by tomorrow morning, back into the teens there, 60s along the Gulf Coast, high temperatures and only single digits by tomorrow afternoon, so falling temperatures in North Dakota, pretty mild though farther south. And it's all because of the jet stream, kind of a split flow here. Northern tier of states, you'll continue to see the flow coming off of northern portions of Canada, southern tier, not so much, and then we end up with a trough by the middle of next week in the west. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, for Fort Collins, Colorado, windy with clouds most of the time, high temperature of 53. Milder in Iron Mountain, Michigan with clouds and some sunshine, high of 43. And Charleston, South Carolina, mostly cloudy and milder as well, high around 68.
When we come back, can fruit from other citrus trees replace the oranges lost to citrus greening? We've got the latest research. That's next, and later we're off to Louisiana, where these students are learning about careers in agriculture.
Uh-oh.
Researchers are trying to figure out if they can save the Florida citrus industry ravaged by the orange-destroying bacteria known as citrus greening. The disease has destroyed 80% of Florida's famed citrus. 90% of the state's oranges are pressed into juice. Now, scientists at the University of Florida Institute of Food and Ag are trying to make juice from fruit which is tolerant to citrus greening. And the answer may be in certain varieties of mandarins. A new study from IFAS researchers found that few consumers sense little, if any, difference in the smell and taste of certain mandarins compared to oranges when squeezed into juice. The growing demand for organic products is branching into the apple industry. Washington-based Stem Milk Growers says the retail share of sales for organic apples has increased over last year. Organic apples now taking about 11% of the dollar and nearly 9% of volume in apple sales at grocery stores. Millennials driving the organic demand. And it appears a record-setting supply of California strawberries may be headed to the grocery store this spring. Our partners over at the Packer say California's strawberry acreage is down in recent years, but higher-yielding varieties have allowed volume to continue to grow. Ideal growing conditions with cool nights and warm sunny days helps too. Total strawberry acreage in California is just shy of 34,000 acres, a 7% drop from last year, but yields are higher. The California Strawberry Commission expecting total volume to be 6% higher. Up next, trying to steer kids toward a career in agriculture.
AgDay, brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. More weed control, less drift and volatility, maximum yield potential. In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit KubotaUSA.com today.
For 3 days, groups of 6th graders were exposed to bugs, drones, and nutrition. The LSU Ag Center was showcasing the many career opportunities that are available in agriculture. The Ag Center's Craig Gautreaux has the story.
Clothing made from alligators, drones flying through the air, and crawling giant cockroaches were all part of 6th grade days, an event organized by the LSU Ag Center to show the diverse careers related to agriculture. Shiloh Judd, a graduate entomology student, saw it as an opportunity to educate students about insects.
People think bugs are scary, they're dangerous, and some of them are, but we'd like to point out to the kids today that there are good bugs and there are bad bugs, and hopefully show them which ones are which.
Hannah Johnson, an LSU College of Agriculture undergraduate student, spent her time telling students about her experiences in the college. For those students who answered her questions correctly, they were rewarded with flavor-infused crickets, which the students willingly ate.
I'm actually an agriculture education major. I love children. I like informing people, especially about agriculture. I'm very passionate about agriculture as well as the issues.
The event allowed students to learn about agriculture outside the classroom, but that information reinforced what they were learning in the classroom.
My kids have had the most fun creating the food chain. That's something that they're studying in classes, so they get to implement it here in real life, and I appreciate that experience.
Nearly 2,500 students attended the event, which also included visits to other colleges on LSU's campus. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in, spent part of your day with us. For Mike Hoffman and all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
AgDay, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest-lasting heavy-duty pickups.